So we're here today at the Big Bamboo Cafe, and we're here with Casey LaRue, who works with myself and Rick at Coast, and we're here with Steve Desimone, who is running for Ward 3, which covers a lot of the South End, Forest Beach, Shipyard, Long Cove, Wexford, Yacht Cove, and Spanish Wells, I believe.
That's correct.
How are you, Steve?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll get straight to it. You've been around here for a while. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved here in 1986.
Okay.
The town was looking for an engineer. They had just previously incorporated in 84. And so I applied, and they hired me as one of their engineers. I was with the town for a few years. In 1996, I ran for town council, was elected 2 terms to town council from 96 to 2002. While at town council, we worked on some projects that we all know about, like the Cross Island Parkway was a big subject at that time. One of the things that we actually worked on when I first got here as their engineer was creating the first land management ordinance, the LMO, which we brought over from the county. And so we worked it, and got it adopted, and we're off and running as a town.
Right. So you really, from the early days of when the town of Hilton Head became incorporated, you were involved.
I was involved from almost day one. That's correct. And I've been here 38 years now.
Wow.
Well, with all that growth over those 38 years, can you tell us a little bit about what your plans are for the corridor?
For the 278 corridor. Well, as you probably know, the town has given an approval to the county and the state for the bridge and the road. And I believe that we can still have some better improvements in the way the road's designed. I always thought in the prior designs and what's happening right now that keeping the lights would be detrimental to the program. So I would like to see a design where we can eliminate the lights on 278. And and in doing so, we may have to have some grade separations. And it's for more than one reason. It's for the flow of traffic, and it's a safety. It's a safety feature, a safety item. We lost our previous town manager lost his son at that intersection of Squire Pope Road. And if it wasn't for that light and that turn, a lot of lives would be saved. And I believe we get rid of the lights and have some grade separation, that you're going to eliminate a lot of these accidents.
So those basically would be like theater roads in and out of those areas?
Yes. Like when you come onto the island and you want to turn left to Squire Pope Road. So my idea is to raise the road in an earthen fashion and go with what's called grade separation. So you separate the two roads with a grade difference. And the road goes up, you exit off of Squire Pope, and you go underneath the road into Squire Pope without a light. And the way you would get to Spanish Wells and eliminate that light is have a frontage road that goes into Spanish Wells. And if you come out of Spanish Wells, you either accelerate on an acceleration lane going to the island, or you use the same frontage road, go underneath the highway at Squire Pope Road, and ramp on to go on to 278 as you head towards Bluffton.
That's awesome. Well, as a realtor and leader of a real estate team, we're also very conscious of being a pro-business environment while we still maintain this beautiful island and the lifestyle that the locals have basically benefited from, the vision of Charles Fraser and some of the people that came behind him and some of the involvement you had with the town. Are we going to be able to maintain that lifestyle moving forward?
Well, I had the benefit, a lot of people that have been here 35 years or more had the benefit of meeting Charles Fraser. And actually, when I was hired in 86, I was in a planning commission meeting the first week that I was at the town. And I didn't know Charles Fraser, but they introduced me in the meeting and said, "This is our new hire. This is an engineer on staff." And so after the meeting, I went back to my office. And in walks Charles Fraser. And, and he sits down in my office, he introduces himself, and it was sort of like, this is what you're needed for here on the island. You're their engineer, and here's what I would like to see. Here's my vision of what happened to me and what I did in the Low Country and the Sea Islands. And he talked to me maybe in over an hour and gave me his vision of what he thought the island should be like. And it was almost like passing the torch, And it was, and obviously, like I said, I didn't really know Charles Fraser. It was my first visit with him, and but we would see each other every now and then in town meetings and say hi to each other. But it was a very inspiring meeting as I moved forward and learned more about Charles and the island. So now as I move forward, and I've been telling people, what's important, I think as we move forward, we need to always be looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
We need to be looking back to the way it was. We need to be careful with our advancements and look at the past. We had a great mayor that I served with, Tom Peoples.
He was
and
awesome.
He was really good at that. And we were always about preservation. We actually, on that council, we actually started the land bank.
Yeah.
We had a $22 million bond referendum that passed, and we started buying properties for the town of Hilton Head. And so it was always preservation.
Yeah. It's interesting because Charles, our family knew Charles, and it's one thing to have the vision and all the beautification ideas, but there's another thing to keep executing it 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And so having somebody with the background that you have, Steve, I think for me gives me comfort that you know how to make these things work. Because, Charles, I don't know whether he ever envisioned what happened in Bluffton and the growth there and the amount of tourists we have. But when people come here, we'll use an example of my dad. We lived on 4 continents, and when he came to Hilton Head in the late 80s, he was, in awe of how Hilton Head had so smartly been designed. And I think it feels very similar, Hilton Head, as it did when I moved here in the late 80s, with the layout of the gated communities and the limited amount of commercial, and then the whole thing with the land buying program has been unbelievable. I don't know how many parcels there are. There's probably 100 plus parcels.
I think the town's up to something like 1,100 acres or something like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as we move forward, so people need to get out and vote. When's the vote?
Well, they're voting now. It's started this past Monday and on the 21st, and I think it goes to November the 2nd.
Right, and you're running for Ward 3, right?
Ward 3 every day but Sunday.
Okay.
So yeah, get out the vote. That's for sure. Could really use your vote.
So really, as far as I'm concerned, it's about voting for experience and somebody really. At the last meeting I came to. I believe somebody said, Steve has the understanding and almost like the keys to the town as far as in emergency situations, times that may be challenging. You've had the experience. I know you're involved with a lot of the cleanup in Hilton Head Plantation after Hurricane Matthew. You were instrumental in the development of the seawall out there and the new boardwalk and everything.
The big rock revetment that's almost 2 miles long. I built and maintained that. I've renourished the beach on Pine Island for 25 years, and we're working on it now as we speak, actually.
And one last thing while we're talking about re-nourishment and everything, I think you kind of touched on this over at Skillets. You believe like the drainage and the stormwater thing is a big thing that the town really has to be serious about.
Yeah,
right?
some of this forward-looking. For instance, let's talk about forward-looking. Like back when we were on council with my first council with Tom Peoples, Hugo had just ended in 89.
Right.
And we were concerned about losing our power because Charleston was out of power for months.
Right.
Just in this last hurricane that we had that missed us by 500 miles, Savannah was out of power for quite some time. So how do we solve that? So we got to thinking we should bury our lines. And so we started working on burying all the utility lines, and we got that accomplished. As a matter of fact, we worked on it for 2 terms. Got the agreement, and then after I left, the next seated council adopted it, and they buried those lines. It was very forward-looking, and we need to do some of that now. We need to be very forward-looking in what we're doing.
Forward-looking, I like it. Well, let's get out and support Steve, so we're going to be in good hands at the town moving forward. Thanks for your time today, Steve.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good luck.